Like any other session, just a disclaimer, all the opinion expressed during our session, it's solely mine and has nothing to do with my employer. So today we are going to cover Amazon networking concept, right? And when we talked about Amazon networking concept, we usually talk around and VPC and its various components. So what is VPC? It's a virtual private cloud, and VPC let you to have your own isolated environment within Amazon. So what does it mean, right? So let me quickly go to console and show you like what it mean here. So when you first like log in into your AWS account, and if you go to the VPC services, right? Uh, what it will show you, there is already a VPC there, and then it has a subnet, it has a route table, it has the internet gateway, uh, network ACL, and NACL, we call it, security group, etc. Uh, so it means this AWS account which you have created, it's coming with a pre-configured network configuration, and uh, it means when what all resources which you are going to create within your AWS, within your public internet, all those resources is being have a public IP assigned to it. It means you are able to access those internet means those resources through internet. Uh, so let's understand because there are like a lot of concept in here. Let me make you understand what does it mean. I'm just trying to use this whiteboard app. Let me see how successfully I'm able to use this one. So I remember in previous section when I was covering this introduction to AWS, I talked about AWS global infrastructure. Within AWS global infrastructure, we talked about reasons, right? And we said, okay, this is your US East region, and then in the US East, US West, and there are multiple. Even within US East, there are Ohio and North Virginia, and in West we have North California, and so there's a multiple reasons are there. You're able to see all those reasons here. Like we have East, we have a North Virginia, Ohio. In West, we have a California, Oregon. Then we have a Cape Town, Asia Pacific. So there are tons of reasons. So what all these reasons are is if geographically separated areas means, as we know, right, North Virginia, sorry, Oregon, and North Carolina are very, very far away with each other. Why we have a multiple reasons is to provide a high availability or fault tolerance, etc. To ensure, okay, if one region have some problems, so your services will still remain up and everything. And within a reason, we talked about multiple availability zones, right? AGs. We talked about, okay, you can have a US East one, you can have a US East two, US East one, and within US East one you have US East one A, B, and C. Like you can have a multiple availability zones. So what is availability zones? Availability zones is nothing but it's a kind of combination of your uh, data center, one or more data center, right? So if we call it like this is a region. Within a region we are having availability zones, and within availability zones we are having our data centers, right? And within a data center means you can have one or more data center within a single availability zone. And within a data center we are having our racks, and we are having within a racks we are having multiple EC2 instances and etc. So this is how it is, right? So this is your US East one. If I have to say, it's like, let's say if this is your US, it's not that good, but anyways, so this is your US East one, and this is your AZ, which is your AZ US East 1A, like, you can call it 1A, 1B, one C, right? And within availability zones, we can going to have multiple data centers. I don't know. I mean, no one knows how many data centers are there within availability zone, but usually it's more than one data center within availability zones. So let's say if this is your data center, and this is within the data center, we have a multiple racks. Racks is nothing but it's a it's come with a CPU, memory, so which is kind of physical machine where you can create multiple virtual machines. This is your EC2, sit on top of it. So how everything has been segregated, right? How we can isolate all everything's. This is what we're going to talk around our networking session. So if let's say if I have to kind of this is your AWS infrastructure. If you're not speaking, can you mute yourself, please? This is your AWS infrastructure. So if I have to draw the similar comparison between, okay, on a networking concept. So what I'm saying here is, okay, so this is let's say this is your VPC. Remember I talked about, okay, you have a VPC, and VPC going to have a multiple availability zones. When you build a VPC, it's when you create a VPC, you're creating across multiple availability zones, right? So this is your entire region. We call it AWS, and within that we are having this multiple AZs, and this is your VPC. When you create a VPC, it gets created across multiple AZs, right? So this is your VPC. So sorry. So this is your VPC, and within the VPC, we have multiple subnets, and we're going to talk about what is subnet and everything as such on a later. But just wanted to give you a concept, right? So if I have to if I have to differentiate, okay, how one subnet and how your kind of one machine is being differentiated with a different machine. Like let's say if I have a multiple EC2 instances within a VPC, right? So let's say if I have a EC2 instance here, here, how we can have a different how we can differentiate between multiple EC2. So what we can tell is we assign IP addresses against each EC2, and this is where there's a concept called all those networking concepts come into picture. How we can isolate each and every resource within our infrastructure with each other, or how they can communicate with each other, and that's what we're going to learn in our entire next 1 hour. So let's say I have built this three-tier architecture. So remember, so what VPC is? VPC is provide you a logical isolated section within AWS cloud, okay, and where you can onboard your own resources. When I say like onboard your own resources, means you are creating your own VPC, you are assigning your own IP addresses, and you are defining your own subnet. You're defining your own routing rules, your own security group, etc. It means you are. It's more like, okay, you're deploying within your own data center. So that if I have to say in layman language, what it is like, okay, if I have a big house and I have rented some portion of that house to you, and now you are kind of building your own means you're defining how you wanted to live into that house and everything in that portion which I have rented is more like, okay, I have a is more like your VPC is kind of private VPC. So if we talk around three-tier web applications, right? And let's say if I have a website, ABC or like maybe Google.com. So if Google.com has a three-tier infrastructure, or maybe Amazon.com. So what we do is like all the user traffic which we send, right? First is like, okay, when you type www.amazon.com, it try to resolve that name. It means, okay, well, look for the DNS and see, okay, if this DNS is valid or not. If it's valid, then it will route to your uh, website. And what we have here is in Amazon we call something called Route 53, which let you to route your traffic, DNS traffic, and then it will go to the Elastic Load Balancer. Elastic Load Balancer is nothing but, let's say, companies like Amazon, where thousands and lakhs of people are accessing uh, their website all the time. There is a distributed, web servers, and it will look for the web server which is available for you to take your traffic. So it will route all your traffic to the web server which is available. And then web server send a request to app server, and then app server send a request to your database layer. So this is how the three-tier architecture look like. And within three-tier architecture, this is how actually your AWS network configuration look like. So remember I talked to you about, there's AZ. Within AZ, you are creating multiple subnets, and within a subnet you are having your instances, and to that instance you are assigning a security group, and and then to that subnet group you are assigning network access control list, and then route table. All these things maybe sound a little confusing for now, because networking is a little dry subject, but I will try to show you when I started doing the demos. Then you will have a more idea what actually I'm talking here. But before even going to the demo part, let's understand what all these components are. Like, what is I have explained the VPC. Within a VPC, we are having multiple subnets. So let's understand what is multiple subnets are, and then what is this security group, what is this NACL is, network access control is, what is this route table, what is this internet gateway, and there should be something. There is concept called net gateway. We'll learn about all those concepts. Okay. So first concept is VPC subnet. So what VPC subnet is, when you have a when you create your VPC, right? So there are multiple kind of instances, or maybe multiple kind of machines you are having. One must be your public facing, let's say your web, where you have hosted your web application. That will be your public facing. And then you have your database, right? Database will be your maybe uh, uh, Manik, is it like it's not properly visible, or you want me to zoom it more?
No, it's better now. It was actually the problem on the first slide, but it's better now. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. So sorry. So subnet, remember I talked about three-tier architecture, right? So in three-tier architecture, we have a multiple component. One is your web server, other one is application server, one is your database layer, right? So you want it, you how you can segregate. That's how you define your subnet group. So let's say one subnet group where I wanted to put my web application. So web application should able to talk to internet, because that's how people able to access your website, right? But you do not want it to have your database talking to internet, because or else people able to access your database, and that's not a secure. So you wanted to put that into some kind of a different subnet. So this is how we define multiple subnet. Is like, okay, how you wanted to have your how your accessibility to internet look like. That's how you define your subnets. uh, you can have you can have one to many subnets within one within single availability zones. And if you see here, right, I if you notice, right, I have assigned something this something in here, and let me quickly make an edit because it should be 192.168.0.0. So here, if you see here, right, this 192.168.0.0. So what is this is it's a range of IP addresses which is assigned within your VPC. We call it CIDR group. And if you see this one, this 192.168.0.0, and then I have //16. So this is your IP address range, and this is like this number will tell you like how many IP addresses or machines you can build within that particular VPC. So let's quickly learn that concept because this concept, CIDR group concept, is very important, right? So remember I told you like, okay, we are having this 192.168.0.0. So if I put a calculation, so what is telling me is like I can have a 65,536 uh, unique IP addresses within this IP range. It start from 000, and it will be end till this year. So this is your this is your CIDR IP range. So this many means you can have this many of unique machines or IP addresses assigned to your machine. So, but let's say if you have more requirement, then you can have a CIDR range created, with a different group. So let's say if I have to go with one, it means it's bringing this many resources. But if I have to go, yeah. So it going to have this many unique IP addresses. But usually in AWS you start with a 16. Okay. So if you see here on this VPC, see we already have a assigned CIDR group in here. So and this CIDR group, all this like 172 dot, anything with start with 172, or anything which start with 192, and anything start with the 10 dot, all these groups are we call it RFC 1918. This is kind of a IP group which is reserved for your personal work, or maybe for the company's work. It is not available for your public website, right? Okay, if you're building a public website, you will get a different kind of address. Just try to ping Google or Facebook or Amazon or any other website. You always see you aren't able to find any IP address within this range, which start with 192, and which is either with a start with 172 or start with a 10 dot. So all these are reserved for your VPCs, and it's nothing. It's not related to Amazon. It's more kind of a universal thing. Even if you talk on any networking concept, all this RFC 1918 IP group range is blocked for creating the VPC. Within the VPC, okay, we talked about subnets, right? So if you see here, there are multiple subnet assigned to this particular VPC, and we are going to see here. So if we go to, where is my mouse? I'm sorry. So if we go to the subnets, right, we are saying, okay, this is your VPC. Look at this CIDR range for this VPC, and now we have to go and look for the CIDR range for the subnet. As I said, like subnet is a subsection of your VPC. So you can have when you create a VPC or when you create a subnet within your VPC, right? So let's say if you have assigned something /16, maybe 192 dot 168 dot whatever 168, it's not that good, but 192.168.0.1 0.016. So for the subnet, maybe you want to assign subset, not subset of that one is like 192.168.0.1/16. So this way you are only giving that much of of um, of IP ranges to it. So look here, right? What is the CIDR group for this one? It's 172.132.30.32.0.20. So it only telling me, okay, I can have this many of unique IP addresses within that security group, within that subnet. If I look for the different one, it has a different IP range. If I look for the third one, it has a different IP range. If I look for this one, it has a different IP range. So what it means is like, okay, I'm creating this VPC, and within the VPC, I'm creating all this subnet, and I'm assigning IP addresses to it. Uh, there's one more concept. Uh, so let me take a pause and ask you. Do you guys have any question here? So I know it's a little drive. So let me pause. So guys, mute yourself, and if you're not speaking, so this way there's a no background noise. Okay, so we are done with the VPC, right? So we have a two kind of we're done with the subnet. So we have usually two kind of subnet. One is your public subnet, and other one is your private subnet, right? So this is important concept to understand what is public subnet and what is private subnet, and you will whenever you are working with AWS or any other networking, whenever you are doing any networking stuff, you will heard this stuff a lot of time. Oh, okay, it is in a public subnet, other one is in private subnet, so you don't have an access because you're not able to access this one because you are in private subnet. So if something is in public subnet, what does it mean? You have an internet gateway assigned to it, and I will talk about internet gateway later. But the idea is internet gateway lets you access the internet from your subnet. So we have a route table in a public subnet. We have a associated route table which have internet gateway assigned to it. That's the only difference. In a private subnet, we do not have any route table assigned to your. We do not have any internet gateway which is assigned to your route table. So the question is, what is route table, right? So route table is kind of a unique. Is a set of rules which is defined within your subnet, and you can have and the route is unique to its subnet, which tell you like how the traffic is being routed within your subnet. Okay, who will able to come and who will able to access, etc. So that's the route table for you. You can have a you can direct traffic by using route table to internet gateway, VPC endpoint, direct connect, VPC peering, AWS transit gateway. So these are the services which we'll cover later. But when you create a route table, you can literally direct traffic to your to all this component which I have mentioned, which is your internet gateway, virtual private gateway, VPC endpoint, direct connect, and VPC peering, transit, etc. Uh, and yep, and I said like the route table which has a internet gateway associated to it. We call it public subnet, and the route table where we do not have a internet gateway associated to it. Here, this is internet gateway associated to this route table. Then we call it public subnet. If it's not associated to it, we call it private subnet. Okay. And the question is, what is internet gateway? So internet gateway let you access internet from within your subnet. So let's say if I have a EC2 instance up and running in my public subnet. So what it means is my EC2 instance able to communicate to internet, or I'm able to communicate to my EC2 instance. But again, we have not talking the security yet. We do not allow everyone to access to our EC2 instance within our subnet. So we put a lot of security around it. But the idea is once you're able to pass that security, you're able to access your EC2 instance through internet. What does it mean is like, okay, when I'm able to, if I'm trying to access my EC2 instance, which sits on AWS cloud through my local machine, I should able to do that because I'm accessing that. I'm accessing the EC2 instance through public internet. Someone asked me question. I didn't get the CIDR block part. Okay, so CIDR block, if I have to explain in a layman language, is like, okay, I have very big complex, right? And within a big complex, I'm saying, okay, I have a multiple blocks of A, B, C, D, right? And so I'm saying, okay, within block A, I have assigned A, and A has like you can have this many number of apartment within that building, the block A. Similar to that, it's not the best example I have put together, but this is how you can define a CIDR group. How many machines or how many unique machines you can create, because each machines, right, or each EC2 instance or any objects which you create within your cloud, it has some kind of IP address associated to it, unless it's a publicly accessible services like S3. Means S3 do not come with an IP address, but mostly all those services has an IP address associated to it. And when you define your VPC, you are telling, okay, how many machines I'm able to create within that particular VPC. That's what is your CIDR block. When I define something like 192.168.0.0/16, it means I'm telling within this VPC I can have only 65,556 number of machines. I hope it's clear. So that's the CIDR block is. Okay. So internet gateway let you access your access the internet from your public subnet. So I let you access your EC2 instance and through public internet. Okay, so this is one part. There is another concept called net. I will go ahead later. Let me complete the net thing in here. So we call it network address translation. So net instance, right? So net instance is nothing but, let's say I have a database in my private subnet, right, which do not have a direct access to internet, but I have to do some patching. And in order to do a patching, I have to connect to internet and install that patch. So I am able to perform that patching. So how I'm able to securely able to connect internet, we call it net, network address translation, right? So you create a net gateway there. So what you do is you create a net in your public subnet, and then you are assigning that net is get routed towards your private subnet. Maybe I am able to show some diagram in future. But this is how like you are creating your net gateway in your EC2 instance here, and then you are routing from your private subnet to your net gateway, and then your net gateway have a route towards your route table means added here, and which allow you to access the internet. So this way, and then again, it's going to be one-way traffic. You're accessing net, internet only from your private subnet, but not on vice versa. Like you cannot able to access your database from external internet, but your database able to access the internet external website and able to install all those patches which is required. So when you access the internet, right? Remember, I told you all those IP addresses which start with 192 and either 10 or 172. Everything is a private, so you can't able to access that. You can't have that address available to your public internet. So so what you need to do is, in order to do an access to in order to access your internet from your public subnet, what he's doing is whenever we are creating any EC2 instance, we are assigning a public IP to it. Public IP is like, okay, which allow you to have access to internet. Means you can type that address in internet and it will route to your some kind of a machine, right? Or maybe website or anything. So that's what we call that public IP address. We call it elastic IP address in AWS. So you can have a IP address associated to your EC2 instance, which is public. And so if you are accessing that particular uh, instance, right, uh, it kind of routing to your public IP. And though it's routing to your public IP, it gets allocated means uh, from the internet you are connecting to this IP address. You're not connecting to the public IP address. So this way you're able to connect to your EC2 instance. And if there's a route table is configured, it allow you to connect internet as well. Means you have to configure the route table with your IP address. So yeah, remember I talked about how you can have a net gateway for you to connect the internet from the private subnet. So that's what the net gateway is all about. Okay. This is we talked about, okay, how you can access that your stuff or maybe your machines from the public internet. Uh, but no one means you do not want everyone able to access to your machines within your infrastructure, right? That's where you put all the security around it. And so we that security, we're going to learn a couple of security method, how you can secure your resources within your VPC. First is security group. And security group is something which you can create within the instance level. When I say like instance, it means like it's your own database instance, your EC2 instance. It means like on that particular server level we are talking here. It's a stateful. So what does it mean? It means it automatically allowed all the traffic. Uh, if it's if there is an inbound rule is configured, it means I'm saying, okay, as you as a person allowed to connect to my database. It means I'm able to there is a both way traffic, so database is also able to communicate to you. So you have not to define explicitly, you have not to define both way traffic. Is it like, okay, if you're defining one way traffic, it will by default it considered two way traffic. It means as a user, when I write a query against my database, it gave me a result, right? So I have not to define the traffic on either way. Okay, uh, first it's like, okay, it should able to accept my query. Other, okay, if it's accepting my query, it should provide me the result. That's what we call it, like stateful. And security group is a stateful. Uh, Yep. it evaluate all the rules before whether it decide if it's allowed or not. It means if you have already put somewhere deny, it won't allow you to deny, or it will look for whether it explicitly deny for that particular traffic. Yeah, I will show you like how you can create in security group and all those security group when I'm doing the demo. Right now we are just going through definitions. So this is one extra layer of security, and this work around on your subnet label. So let me make you understand what does it mean. So when I say like NACL is on your subnet here somewhere, and when I talk about security group, which is assigned to your instance, like EC2 instance, so it is associated to your EC2 instance, and NACL is associated to your subnet. Yep, and it's a stateless. What does it mean? It means like you have to explicitly allow both way traffic, and so you do not want to define NACL in every subnet. It is more specifically defined when you have to kind of blacklist some IP address. Okay, this IP address is dangerous, and you explicitly want to deny or access to that particular IP address or range of IP addresses to your machine, so you can creating a NACL. It's kind of more kind of adding extra layer of security against your VPC. There is something called VPC flow log. What it means is like, okay, when you configure the VPC flow log, you're able to monitor all the traffic within your you're able to monitor all the traffic which is happening against your VPC. So you can create a VPC flow log on VPC label, on the subnet label, and on the network interface label. Either it can monitor accepted rule, rejected rule, or you can have all traffic. So, yep. What we're going to do here is I will show you a demo, right? Within demo, what we're going to do is we are creating two things. One is your public subnet. One is your public subnet. Other one is private subnet. And within public subnet, we are creating a route table and attaching the network internet gateway to it. So this way, I'm able to have my EC2 instance, which is being created in my public subnet, able to communicate and to the internet, and then I will creating a net within my public subnet and allow to have my database associated to that net. So that was we are trying to do and try to make you understand this concept. I know this is not so fun. Working on networking part is always very painful. So let me go and end that presentation. And before I can go for demo, let me pause and say, do you guys have any question here? Okay, fair enough. So what we could do here is, even before going there, let's see, right? I talked about all those concepts. So we have a VPC. Within a VPC, we are having multiple subnet associated to it. So if I'm going and see like, all the subnet all the VPC means all the subnet is having some kind of VPC associated to it. So if you see here, this VPC have this many subnets associated to it, 1, 2, 3, 4. And within subnet, I talked about whether it's a private subnet or it's a public subnet. It totally depends on how our route table is configured. So if I look here, our route is configured to have a internet gateway associated to it. So what it means is like, if I create any instance within this VPC, This instance by default is accessible to your it is accessible to internet, means I'm able to SSH to this I'm able to SSH, or I'm able to connect to that particular instance from outer world, as long as I having that security group configure and access granted. Let's do a quick demo and create something in here itself in the public VPC, which comes with our account. So if I'm going here, let's say if I'm running an instance, I'm launching an instance. Here I go ahead and launch this one. This comes free, review and launch. Okay. Remember, I talked about security group. So security group is associated to your uh, instance. So I'm creating a EC2 instance. It means I'm creating a EC2 machine, a virtual machine, right? Now what I'm telling here is, okay, who all able to access to my EC2 machine? So there is a couple of things. One is, okay, I'm telling you everyone able to access to my machine and by port 22, which is your SSH port. SSH is which allow me to do a command line access to this internet, this instance, or maybe I can put my IP address. If I'm putting my IP address, it means I can only have an access to this resource from my laptop, from my IP address, not from everywhere. But if I put, if I put anywhere, even you are able to access this machine from your laptop, as long as I'm allowing, means that's what we're doing. So there is a two-way. One is like, okay, you wanted to have this way, and let me quickly check my IP address. But you do not want it to open your machine to everyone, right? This is not best security configuration. So this is how you can configure your IP address. And see here, there is something called 32. Remember, I talked about CIDR group. So when I put 32, so let's see what all how much machines comes under 32. So if I go here and put something like this much and have this one as a 32, okay, just look this one. It means only one IP address. It means I can only able to access this machine from this particular IP address, nowhere else. So this is fun to understand here. Okay, so when I'm launching this instance, what I'm telling is I'm only able to access this instance from this machine, from my local laptop, and I'm assigning to the security group. I'm keeping everything default, and let's launch it. Okay, let me quickly show you something in here. Instance detail. So when look here where it being launched. This is your VPC. This is your public VPC, right? So you're launching your public VPC, and all the use subnet setting here. We are using the subnet setting. It means we are using the route table within our subnet for us to run. So let's launch it. I have already created a key pair, so I have selected that particular key pair and launching from there. View instance. So now my instance is getting launched. But if you see here, right, I already got something called public IP. If I have to SSH my machine, it means if I have to connect to my machine, I have to use this public IP address for me to connect. Amazon provides something called public DNS, so you can use this public DNS for you to connect to your machine. So let's once it will be up and running, I will show you how to connect this EC2 instance. So it is there. I'm connecting. So maybe I can use browser is easy to connect. But see here, right? This is the public IP and this is the private IP. I remember I told you, in order to have you connected, you definitely have to have some kind of public IP associated to your EC2 instance. Okay, let's go back to our session and let's complete our demo part, which I was telling you about on this one. So the first step is let's create a public IP address, and once it will initialize, I can able to connect it. But still waiting for it to initialize. So we'll come back here, but before that, let's create public and private IP address. So what you can do here is there is a easiest way. Means either I can go ahead and create everything, or else there's a predefined template provided by VPC console. Is you can create a public and private subnet within your VPC. So if I select here, right, I have let's say this is the IP range I'm selecting. So see, this is how many IP address I'm able to use within this CIDR group. Maybe I'm just giving this AWS session VPC. And then we'll talk about subnet, right? Subnet is kind of subset of your VPC. So we are creating two subnet. One is your public subnet, other one is your uh, private subnet, right? This is your private subnet. This is a public subnet, and and we have so look at this IP range for this public subnet. It's 10.0.0.24, and this is private subnet 10.0.1.0.24. Okay, and this is where either you can have a IP elastic IP associated to it, but what I will do is I will launch an instance within it. So I'm just selecting in that instance. What does it mean? It means this instance by default come with a public IP. So T2 micro, I'm just selecting key pair, maybe having this key pair associated to it, and just do not end any endpoint when we don't need it, and enable DNS host name, just keep it yes. So let's create this VPC and we'll see what all things has happened. So let me put something here, private subnet 1, because later we're going to create one more subnet. Okay, let's go and see what all things has happened here. So remember, I just created this VPC. So see here, I have a new VPC is being created. To this VPC, let's see what all things are there. So I have created two subnet within that VPC. We can go and see. So this is the subnet which we have created, this public subnet and this private subnet. So let's see what is this public subnet. Remember I told you public subnet has a route table where we're having that internet gateway associated to it. So this is your public subnet which has an internet gateway to it. Let's look for the private subnet. So for the private subnet, we do not have any internet gateway associated to it. Though we have a ENI associated to it, it means it's able to communicate to that particular instance which we have created earlier. Okay. Anyways, this is what it is, and but let's go to this, see what is how our route table look like. And this is our route table, and see, this is how we did a routing. It means it able to route all the traffic, means coming from this IP address. Means literally we are telling, okay, all over the internet can able to access, can get routed through this internet gateway which we have created. I know there's a lot of things. So if you see here, I have associated the public subnet to my route table, etc. And this is our internet gateway. This is one which we have created. This is attached to your this VPC, which is kind of fine, and elastic IP address. So this is the elastic IP address which we created and assigned to your ENI. Remember, and so let's go and create one more thing. Let's create a additional subnet, right? And that's this we are creating additional private subnet. So we are going and creating here. I'm calling it private subnet 2. And VPC, the one this is which we have selected. I just not giving any preference. Maybe I can give one. So if you see here, right, within VPC, it's showing all the availability zone. So that's what we're doing. And within private, when we create that subnet, we are creating that subnet within availability zone. Means if I'm not giving any preference, it will randomly select but if I give any preference, it will go and create into that particular availability zone. And this is where we are defining the CIDR block. Okay, what all CIDR block you wanted to have it. So let's say the previous one is already been taken, so we are associating with this one. So look here, our VPC CIDR block is this one, and I'm just giving this as something different because I remember the previous one already being assigned. So if I look for this CyberNet, it has this one. If I look for the private, this one, private one, it has a 1. So that's the reason I have assigned 2 to it. So what next? Once we have created, right, what we're going to do is we are going to route table, and we'll see what if we can if we have to assign anything to this route table. Okay, if I click on that associated, it not, so I think I'm good here. So this one is done. What else I need to do? The second is I have to create a security group for the public web server. So remember, I told you you can only able to access your resources through the security group. So right now, what I'm telling is you can have access to internet, but only if I define the security group and associated to it. So this way, I'm ensuring okay, no one else in the world able to access the internet apart from the one which I am defining in my security group. So what I need to do is I have to go. Security group here, and just clicking on a security group. And here, what I'm doing is I'm creating a security group. Maybe I can give this is AWS session security group. And what we're doing is we are just allowing to have SSH. Just allow. Which is associated to my AWS session VPC. This is where I'm adding that inbound role. It means go to inbound role, SSH, look for SSH. I provided the IP range, and then this is my IP. So what I'm telling here is this security group if it associated to any of the, if any of those servers, I'm able to do an SSH to it. I'm done with creating a security group. Okay, once we're done with the creating a security group, what we need to do is we have to create a security group on in our private, for the private instance. Remember the database which we have talked about. So let's create a security group to the database here. So we're calling it AWS session DB SG security group. And then what we're doing here is we are giving access to database. So here, remember when I was doing SSH, when I was creating security group to that web server, I gave that SSH. But now I'm connecting to my database. So in order to connect to database, I have to give, here in our case, we are going to have a MySQL. So let's go and give an access to MySQL. So I selected from the list MySQL, and I have added here, and where I can able to access to MySQL only from my IP address. So I'm creating the security group. Okay, this is there's a lot of things in here. So if I go to that database, right? I'm not going to create the database and everything, but if I go to the database, I will show you like where you can add the security group in a database. So this is where you have your security group. Create a T2 subnet group. Choose a VPC. This one, AZ. Any AZ we can have selected, and then we can select that subnet within it. We wanted to do that, and within a subnet group, we wanted to give at subnet. We wanted to give, let's say, maybe AWS session DB subnet group. So I'm just creating a lot of security around it, and I'm sure it's creating a lot of confusion for you guys. But idea is to how you can make your database secure and only able to accessible from multiple availability zones. So right now, if I can go ahead and select everything, that's work too. But if you have any specific, you just wanted to have access to your database from any specific availability zone, right? Let's say, remember when I was showing the slide, this is where, so let's say if I wanted to have database access from any of this, only from particular security group, particular subnet group, I can just have that particular subnet selected here. Right now, I have all the subnet been associated, so I can't. I mean, definitely you wanted to have that associated to your public subnet, right? So you are associating with your public subnet and have it access from the public subnet to this particular database. So let it. Okay, just 1 second. Must provide must have been non-pay blank. Okay, so description, maybe I just put this one. And this one is a public. Let it done. DB subnet programming availability coverage requirement, please add subnet to cover 2 availability zones, 1 current. So when I have created that subnet, maybe I have to create the subnet in different availability zones. This one is being created to US East, US West to A, and this one is also being created to US West A. So see, now for the database, the requirement is you definitely have to have a you can you have your subnet created in multiple AZs. So let me delete this one and have been created in different AZ. Delete subnet. I just deleted this one, and I go ahead and create a new private subnet to VPC. This one and preferences.
So the security group can be configured to a subnet for one availability zone, correct?
No, means for the security group, you have to have a two different subnet associated to it.
Okay.
Means you can create security group. Security group is assigned to your instance, but when you're creating a subnet group for database, this is where you have to have a security group which is being created. Sorry, you have to have a subnet which being created in multiple availability zones.
Okay.
I know this is very very rough, very dry topic. I can only think of because whenever I read around networking, it makes me sleep. So
I I also have one more question, but I'll let you complete this. Once
okay,
you're done, let me know.
yeah. So let's see this private subnet we have in 2A, right? This one is in 2D. Now it will allow me to have it added. So yep, maybe I have to cancel it. Go again and create a DB subnet group. So AWS session DB subnet GP, and here this one. So yeah, see now I'm able to see that multiple subnet, multiple ability zones. So I have selected in one in 2A, other one in 2Z, which is awesome. So let me go and create this thing. Okay, now it's being created.
So
So
a security group can be created and configured within a subnet, meaning within an instance, meaning within a database, and can be
r-
created outside of it between different availability zones, right?
right, yes.
And like, what's the difference and benefit of the two? I mean, in sort of layman terms, if I want to understand, like
So
for a web application or for a mobile application, how is it making any difference?
Uh, so actually, when you create a security group, right? As I said, like security group is assigned to your instance. So there's a two-way of creating a security group. One is like, okay, you're going and creating the security group. And when you create a security group, it will ask you like where you wanted to have your security group attached, right? So let me quickly walk you through that step. So here, if I go here and just create one security group, it will telling me okay which IP which VPC you wanted to have your security group associated to it, and then inbound rule and outbound rule. Now once my VPC security group is being created, I can go ahead and attach this VPC this security group to any of the instance, whether whether it's a private instance sit in a private subnet or it's in public subnet. It hardly make a difference because the security group is specific to your instance. It is not specific around your secure around your subnet.
Got it.
Yeah, and so it's just more kind of keeping your instance secure. So having said that, right? So this is what we did in this session. We went ahead and created a subnet group where the PPT went. So what we did is we have created a public and private IP address, and public IP address was associated with your internet. Public one, which was associated with your internet gateway. It means I'm able to access this EC2 instance which been created here through internet by using SSH. Remember when I was doing that security group, and I'm only able to access database through through the public internet where I have created the net gateway. So that's what we did here. And then we have defined or created a database security group, etc., etc. So we are ensuring, okay, database database is only being accessed through this particular security group, nowhere else. So you can't access database from any other security group. So that's what we did here. So there is a couple more concepts which comes into picture around AWS networking. One is VPC endpoint, other one is VPC peering, and AWS transit gateway. So let's say you have configured everything, and now, but there are few services like for instance DynamoDB or S3. These are the publicly accessible services because these are the managed services which is managed by AWS. So how you can access all these services without even going into public subnet, or sorry, without even going to the public internet. So we call it a VPC endpoint. So you have to configure VPC endpoint which allow you to connect to that particular service without even going to a public internet. So let's say example is, okay, if I have a Redshift which I have created within my private subnet. Now I wanted to have that VPC. I wanted to have Redshift access to that S3 bucket in order to load the data. So you have to create a VPC endpoint to your S3. So this way you are not going externally for you, to perform that copy operation to load your data. And let's say if I have a multiple VPC within my AWS account, then you can use something called VPC peering, which allow you to communicate to multiple subnet within your multiple VPCs within your account. So, and one thing which you need to keep in mind when you work when you talk around VPC peering is VPC peering do not allow hopping. It means like, let's say I have a 3 VPC. VPC A have an access to VPC B, and VPC B have an access to VPC C. So it does not mean you have direct access to VPC C. In order to have access to VPC C, you have to create VPC peering from VPC A to VPC C. VPC C. Okay. And there is something called AWS Transit Gateway. Let's say you have, so VPC peering has some limit. So after 100 something, I do not support connectivity more than 100 something. I do not remember exact number, but after that you need to have something called AWS Transit Gateway, which allow you to configure even thousands of VPC across account and have them and make them connectivity between all those VPC. Having said that, this is the end of our today's session. So I will take a pause and I will let you ask any question if you have any. Okay, so there's one appeal. So if you like my session, just pay and just donate to any COVID-19 nonprofits and or one of my friends' nonprofit, they are working for a migrant. So any donation to their nonprofit is going to be awesome. I will put the description in our video link. Thank you.
Thank you.